The map of wholeness. Most people spend their lives trying to fix themselves, fix their habits, fix their fears, fix the parts of themselves they were taught to hide. But real growth may not begin with fixing anything at all. Perhaps the deeper journey is about becoming whole. Beneath the noise of daily life, beneath distraction, pressure, and expectation, the human mind carries something ancient within it. A hidden inner map, a quiet structure guiding us through chaos, conflict, suffering, transformation, and self-discovery. Carl Jung believed that within every person exists a deeper self waiting to be understood. Not a perfect self, not an idealized mask, but something authentic and complete. Yet most of us live only at the surface of our minds. We move through routines, responsibilities, and expectations without ever looking beneath the waters of the unconscious. But the unconscious is not an enemy. It is an ocean, deep, symbolic, emotional, alive. And when we begin listening to it gently, we begin the lifelong process of understanding who we truly are. This journey is not about becoming someone else. It is about returning to yourself. Tonight we begin that journey together. Process 1. Confronting the unconscious. For many people, the unconscious mind feels mysterious, distant, or even frightening. But the unconscious is not a dark place meant to be feared. It is the deeper emotional world beneath the surface of conscious thought. Like an ocean beneath calm water, it contains memories, instincts, emotions, desires, fears, and forgotten parts of ourselves that quietly influence the way we live. Carl Jung referred to some of these hidden aspects as the shadow. The shadow is not evil. It is simply the part of ourselves we were taught to reject, suppress, or hide from the world. The anger we deny, the grief we bury, the insecurity we cover, the creativity we were afraid to express, the emotions we pushed into silence. Yet what remains hidden does not disappear. It continues speaking through our reactions, relationships, anxieties, dreams, and behaviors. Growth begins when we stop running from these hidden parts of ourselves. Not with judgment, not with fear, but with gentle awareness. The journey inward requires honesty, patience, and compassion. Because the goal is not to destroy the shadow. The goal is to understand it. And when we begin looking beneath the surface of our minds, we slowly discover that healing begins not through avoidance, but through awareness. Process 2. The shadow. Within the unconscious mind lives a hidden part of ourselves that Carl Jung called the shadow. The shadow is made of the emotions, instincts, desires, fears, and traits we learned to suppress, reject, or hide from the world. Not because they disappeared, but because we believed they were unacceptable. Sometimes the shadow contains anger, sometimes insecurity, sometimes grief, envy, fear, loneliness, or pain. But it can also contain hidden creativity, sensitivity, strength, passion, and parts of ourselves we were once afraid to express. The shadow is not evil, it is human. And the more we deny it, the more powerfully it begins influencing our thoughts, emotions, relationships, and behaviors from beneath the surface. Many people spend their lives running from these hidden aspects of themselves. But healing does not begin through denial. It begins through awareness. Jung believed that growth requires us to gently face the parts of ourselves we would rather avoid. Not with shame, not with self-hatred, but with honesty and compassion. Because when we stop fighting against our inner darkness, we begin understanding it. And through that understanding, the shadow slowly loses its control over us. The goal is not perfection. The goal is integration. To become whole, we must be willing to acknowledge every part of ourselves, even the parts hidden in shadow. Process 2. Individuation. As we begin confronting the unconscious, another process slowly emerges. The process of individuation. Carl Jung described individuation as the lifelong journey of becoming your true self. Not the version shaped by pressure, not the mask created for approval, not the identity built entirely around the expectations of others, but the deeper self beneath the performance. Throughout life, many people create what Jung called the persona, the social face we present to the world. The persona helps us function in society, but over time we can become trapped inside it. We begin living for acceptance instead of authenticity, for appearance instead of truth, for approval instead of inner peace. Individuation begins when we slowly separate who we truly are from who we believed we had to become. This process is not dramatic. It is quiet, gradual, sometimes painful, sometimes liberating. Like scattered fragments slowly organizing into symmetry, the mind begins moving toward inner balance. The more honestly we confront ourselves, the more centered we become. And over time, something remarkable begins to happen. The chaos created by external expectations starts losing its power. A calmer inner center begins to emerge. Not perfection, wholeness. Process 3. Enantiodromia. Carl Jung spoke of a psychological principle known as enantiodromia, the tendency for the mind to move toward balance when pushed too far in one direction. Just as nature moves in cycles, the human psyche also seeks equilibrium. When life becomes consumed by chaos, exhaustion, emotional extremes, or inner conflict, the mind naturally begins searching for restoration. Like the rhythm of ocean tides, our inner world is constantly shifting between tension and release, activity and stillness, expansion and retreat. Many people resist these natural movements. They fight exhaustion instead of resting. They suppress emotion instead of understanding it. They cling to control even when the mind is calling for peace. But healing often begins when we stop forcing ourselves against the current. The psyche has its own wisdom, its own rhythm, its own quiet way of guiding us back towards stability. This does not mean life becomes free of struggle, but it does mean that within every period of darkness, imbalance, or confusion, there also exists the possibility of return. A return to awareness, a return to calm, a return to the deeper center within ourselves. And when we learn to trust this process, we begin moving through life with greater compassion, patience, and inner understanding. Conclusion: the lifelong journey. The journey toward wholeness is not something completed in a single moment. It is a lifelong process of reflection, awareness, balance, and self-discovery. There will always be new layers of ourselves waiting to be understood, new fears to confront, new insights to uncover, new moments of growth emerging quietly beneath the surface of everyday life. Carl Jung believed that true transformation begins when we make the unconscious conscious, not by rejecting ourselves, but by understanding ourselves more deeply. The path inward requires patience, honesty, compassion, and the courage to remain present with who we truly are. But through this process, we slowly move closer to inner peace, not because life becomes perfect, but because we begin living with greater awareness, balance, and authenticity. The journey continues, and perhaps that is the beauty of it.